we've got you set for all the weekend's postseason action.
Stafford floats it. Nakua's the target! Oh! Puka Nakua! On this crucial fourth down, Young, McMillan, got it! Touchdown! Panthers lead!
From sides to totals to props, we've got you covered. It's You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. Here's your host, Nick Kostos.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry Wild Card Saturday in the NFL playoffs. To you and yours, this is You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff with me, Nick Kostos, on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. What a glorious Saturday it is in the world of sports. We stand right now, dear listener and dear viewer, we stand on the precipice of an awesome weekend in the National Football League. 5 NFL playoff games coming up on Saturday and Sunday before Wild Card Weekend wraps up on Monday night in Pittsburgh, with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers hosting C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. One of the best months of the year in the world of sports is January, and this really kickstarts it here now that the NFL playoffs are on nigh. So over the course of the next 2 hours here on You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff, I'm going to get you set for all 5 NFL playoff games this weekend. I'm going to hit you with the biggest storylines emanating from the games, obviously update you on the side and total markets in all the games, and all the betting angles your little heart could ever desire for all 5 games. And I'm talking sides, I'm talking totals, and I'm talking thy royal prop king. I'm going to fill out my NFL playoff bracket to start next hour on the show, tell you who I've got playing in Super Bowl 60. I would encourage you to do the same thing. Who do you think is going to play for the Super Bowl championship for the Lombardi Trophy coming up in February in the Bay Area? Look forward to that and some bets we could potentially place as a result. Westwood One NFL analyst Ryan Leaf, former NFL quarterback, will join us next hour here on the show, live from Carolina. He'll be on the call of the Panthers and Rams nationally on Westwood One. Very much look forward to that. And we will close the show with the finalized betting card and thy royal prop king, all the bets for Wild Card Saturday in the NFL. And this will be an NFL-focused show. The vast majority of the show today will be dedicated to the NFL postseason. But look, sports show, football show, the name of the show, Countdown to Kickoff. So we have to begin here with what we saw last night. Ended at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time as the Indiana Hoosiers destroy the Oregon Ducks. 56-22. Indiana, 56. Oregon, 22. Man, if you were following the betting market, and even if you don't bet, I think this is really interesting, and I'm guessing you will as well. Indiana closed a 3-point favorite in the game. So Indiana was favored in the game. This point spread was 4.5 at points leading up to the game, 3.5 for much of the week this week, and certainly yesterday. So this was like a lot of people, influential money on the Oregon Ducks, pushing this number down to 3. The total got bet up as well. Indiana hit the over by itself. Didn't even need Oregon's 22 points. So that was smart on the over. But all that money on Oregon, including some of mine, man, that's great. Bet Oregon plus 3.5, close 3. Happy about that. Also, get your brains beaten in. And unfortunately, I can't buy groceries for my family with the closing line value I got in last night's game. And Indiana, now 1 win away from a national championship. And like I said, Indiana was favored in last night's game. And And we have seen recently Indiana beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. We watched last week on New Year's Day Indiana obliterate, dominate, and eviscerate Alabama in the Rose Bowl, in the granddaddy of them all. And yet, despite all of this, despite the mountain of evidence that exists to suggest that this is the best team, that this is an absolute juggernaut in the sport of college football, I don't know if you listening, you watching, if you agree with me, I'm still kind of in disbelief over this whole thing. It's like the opposite of the great Joe Pantoliano scene from The Matrix, where he kind of turns heel on all the humans and joins the robots, right? And he's having dinner with Agent Smith, and he's going to sell out like all the humans in the real world. And he's eating the steak, and he goes, "I know this steak isn't real, and this glass of wine I'm drinking's not real, but F it. Ignorance is bliss." This is the opposite of that. I know Indiana's real. I know that what I'm watching is actually happening. It's not a figment of my imagination. And yet it's still hard to wrap your brain around, even at this point now. Like, we're in 2026. This has been going on with Indiana since 2024. And it's not just that Indiana's winning. I think I'll speak for me. I'm used to that part at this point. But it's how it happens. It is the devastation that they leave in their wake of legacy programs in the world of college football. And not that Oregon is a legacy program the way Alabama's a legacy program. Oregon didn't really get rolling until obviously Phil Knight from Nike started pouring money into the program. But I mean, still, Oregon's been one of the best programs in college football this century. And Indiana just waylaid them in the game. Like, this game was non-competitive. And we'll talk about there was a moment in the game, like one moment, where you could say, oh, man, we might have a barn burner here. This might be an awesome football game. And that thought disappeared and dissipated into the ether very, very quickly. And the job's not done yet for Indiana. And we could talk about Indiana and Miami in the national championship game next Monday night in Miami at Hard Rock. We can get to that. But even before that game is played, right? Indiana's a 7.5-point favorite in that game. There is no American sports analog that exists to compare what Curt Cignetti has done at Indiana to. It doesn't exist. Maybe you want to say like Leicester City winning the Premier League in 2015, and the American sports audience rolls its eyes. I'm just saying for context, maybe you'd like to bring that up. And the analogy that I keep falling back on is that Curt Cignetti is Walter White from the great AMC television show Breaking Bad. Comes out of absolutely nowhere, totally unheralded, takes down all the big boys in short order, and becomes the bully on the block. Curt Cignetti is Heisenberg, and he is the one who knocks. And instead of say my name as the catchphrase, his is Google me. And it's absolutely incredible. First play of the game last night in the Peach Bowl. Like, we're settling in. The point spread closes 3. And maybe you thought Indiana was going to win like they did last night. A lot of people felt this could be a close game, obviously. First play of the game, Dante Moore throws a pick 6. First play of the game, pick 6. Indiana goes up 7-0. And it's just like, oh, I guess that's what this is going to be. And a huge storyline going into last night's game, and I built this up over the course of the week, and I don't regret it at all, because I think I was right to bring it up. People were right to bring it up. People were right to feel this way. And if you're a big NFL, and even if you're listening to this right now or watching this right now and you're not a huge college football fan, you're a huge NFL fan, I mean, there's a big NFL story in last night's game, in that this game featured the likely top 2 picks right now in the NFL draft at quarterback, with Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, who won the Heisman Trophy, obviously, and Oregon's Dante Moore. And if you look at most mock drafts right now, not that they have to be right, it's early January, but the Raiders are taking Fernando Mendoza, and the Jets at 2 are taking Dante Moore. It doesn't have to go that way, but that's what every reputable mock draft has right now. So going into the game, I said, and I was right to say it, what if Dante Moore outplays Mendoza? What if Oregon pulls the upset and gets revenge for Indiana beating them earlier in the season in Eugene. Are we going to enter Saturday morning, like where we're at right now, Saturday afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, whenever you're watching this, with Dante Moore as now the presumptive number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft? And it felt like in that moment, and that's not totally fair to say, but in that moment, first play, pick 6, I felt like we were pretty close to having that answer. And I texted some people in the NFL last night in the league, and just in case you're a new listener or viewer, like I worked in the league for like a decade. I worked for NFL radio at Sirius XM. You'll never hear me say I have sources in Major League Baseball. I don't. But in the NFL, I do. And I asked a bunch of people, did Dante Moore tank his draft stock last night with that performance? And everybody said no. And I think it's fair. It would be one thing if Oregon as a team and as a coaching staff was great last night and Dante Moore stunk and he's the reason they lost. This was just a top-to-bottom ass-kicking from Indiana. I think Dante Moore's largely going to get a pass for the game last night. Not that he played great in the game, and he did have that moment, by the way, where on the second drive of the game, he throws the pick 6. They're down 7-0. Then he leads Oregon right down the field on a long drive and throws a touchdown pass, and it's 7-7, and I'm like, oh my, wow, we might actually have a game here. Spoiler alert, we didn't. This is where, like, the narrator would come in. No, it would not be a close game again. Final score, 56-22. And I don't know how you watched that game last night, or even, like, listen to me talk about it right now if you're not a huge college football fan, because there's an NFL tie-in here, and not think that Fernando Mendoza is the next franchise quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, who will be picking first overall coming up in April. Mendoza last night was exceptional. My phone, like I'm guessing yours, you the listener, you the viewer, because we're all huge sports fans, right? And I'm guessing if you're a huge sports fan, your friends are probably big sports fans, at least some of them. And I'm sure you're watching the game, and you and your buddies, you and your friends are texting about it. Can you believe how good Mendoza is? Not that we didn't know that already, but on that stage, making every throw, showing that he's got escapability, and while he's not fleet of foot the way like Lamar Jackson is, yeah, he can get outside the pocket, he can move, he can spin, he can make it happen with his legs. The leadership is obviously off the charts. I've joked that Fernando Mendoza is like if you asked, hey, ChatGPT, create a quarterback for me that says and does all the right things. Here's Fernando Mendoza, who sounds like 1988 Hulk Hogan at quarterback. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, go do the right thing. That's Fernando Mendoza, except he's not acting. He means it. And I think that makes him pretty cool. I know some people disagree, but look, I like it. His only social media, Mendoza, is LinkedIn. This sounds like the setup to a joke, but it's real. Doesn't use X, doesn't use TikTok, doesn't use Instagram. He's on LinkedIn. It sounds made up, but it's actually true. And if you're a Raiders fan, and the Raiders are a national fan base, obviously, right? Not just limited to Las Vegas. If you're a Raiders fan, last night, like yesterday, Friday, January 9th in the year of our Lord 2026, might have been the most important day for your franchise since beating the Tennessee Titans in the AFC Championship game in 2002. Because now you get this guy as your quarterback, most likely, with the first overall pick in the NFL draft. And that takes me, and this will be the last point in this segment, and we'll do a little bit on the Indiana-Miami game next segment, where I actually feel like I am a little late on this take. And I don't like that as a talk show host, to be late on something. But I have to acknowledge it, right? I feel like I'm early on a lot of stuff. I'm late on this one. Because a lot of people have said this already. And I think they're way right. Curt Cignetti is the man, right? We've never seen anything like this in the history of sports, what he's done at Indiana. If you're Tom Brady, and to be clear, you're not, and neither am I. But if you're Tom Brady and you're the Raiders, John Mara, you're the Giants, Arthur Blank, the Atlanta Falcons, Jimmy Haslam, the Cleveland Browns, Stephen Ross, the Miami Dolphins, etc. Yeah, like John Harbaugh's a great candidate, Kevin Stefanski's a great candidate. Are you considering, especially if you're the Raiders, giving Curt Cignetti a blank check to come run your NFL team. Imagine Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza in Vegas. Now, I'm not insinuating that this is likely to happen or that Cignetti would even entertain it. And I'm sure there are sports fans right now that are primarily college football fans, not NFL fans, that are like, what are you talking about? This would never happen. I'm not saying it will. Just that, don't you have to at least have the conversation if you're one of these NFL teams with a vacancy? Given what happened last night, Indiana 56, Oregon 22. The Indiana Hoosiers, not the Alabama Crimson Tide, not the Georgia Bulldogs, not Notre Dame, not Ohio State. The Indiana Hoosiers, one win away from a national championship. What a time to be alive. On the other side, we'll give you a quick preview of the national championship game coming up next Monday night with Indiana and Miami. Hoosiers a 7.5-point favorite. I'll give you my early betting take on the game. And then we are diving head first into the NFL playoffs. All the big storylines and all the betting angles for all the games this weekend. And you know where we'll start at the beginning with the Rams and the Panthers coming up this afternoon in Carolina. We're just getting started here. Countdown to kickoff. You better you bet. Wild Card Saturday with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Three receivers bunch to the left. Beck is looking that way. And still looking. Takes off running. Carson Beck with his legs. Puts Miami on top. What a drive.
De'Aaron Hill Jr. is the running back. The quick pass is intercepted. It's going to be run in for an Indiana touchdown. D'Angelo Pons on the first play of the game.
This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
ESPN courtesy of both calls. Chris Fowler, Sean McDonough. Miami beats Ole Miss in an instant classic on Thursday night in the Fiesta Bowl. And last night it was not an instant classic. Indiana destroys Oregon 56-22 in the Peach Bowl, setting up a national championship game next Monday night, January 19th, at Hard Rock. Miami, the home team in the game. Miami against Indiana. I'll break down that game briefly in a second here, and then we will get to all things NFL playoffs. But we got to tell you right now about our show sponsor and our title sponsor, BetMGM. Because the biggest games of the year, and you know this is true, you the person listening, you the person watching, the biggest games of the year are kicking off. We want you to use this odds boost token to score a bigger payout if your pro football bet wins. So if you're out there listening or watching and you don't bet, that's okay. You don't have to. But if you do, why wouldn't you do it at BetMGM, where you get an odds boost token to score a bigger payout if you win your bet? Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app, visiting I talk for a living. Visiting BetMGM.com so you can make it legendary. And as always, please gamble responsibly. At BetMGM right now, Indiana, a 7.5-point favorite against Miami. Indiana, a minus 300 around their price on the money line to win the game. The total in the game is 48.5. Just consider this for a moment. We are about to have a national championship game in college football with Indiana and Miami. And Miami is the lovable underdog in the game. You can actually make a case the favorite's lovable also with Indiana, but you have Miami, a legacy program in college football, against Indiana, one of the worst programs in the history of college football prior to the last 2 years, and Indiana is the big favorite in the game. This is like when David Arquette won the WCW title. Something you never thought you'd see in a million years. Hoosiers favored by this much against Miami in the national championship game. And I'll be real with everybody. I see that, and I have not placed a bet yet, and I reserve the right to change my mind with what I'm about to say. I see that point spread, and I kind of want to bet Miami. Miami's got dudes. NFL players on both lines. Malachi Toney looks like he could play in the NFL tomorrow. Their stud receiver. Fletcher's a stud running back. I kind of want to bet Miami. I feel like George Costanza and the George opposite great episode of Seinfeld. Up is down, left is right, and Indiana's an absolute juggernaut. And Kurt Signetti versus Mario Cristobal, to steal a line from my friend Danny Parkins, does kind of feel like hammer versus the nail as far as in-game coaching is concerned. I want to think about this a little bit more. My initial take is to take the points with Miami, which probably means Indiana wins by 30. Talk about that more as we lead up to the game on You Better You Bet, both on the weekday show in its new time slot, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, youtube.com/@thekostos for those interested, youtube.com/@thekostos, and on the weekend editions of You Better You Bet as well in the month of January. And with that, let's talk some NFL playoffs. We're going to hit all the stories, all the betting angles. You will get all of it here in the next 90 minutes here on the show. And we will begin where most things do, at the start. 4:30 p.m. Eastern today on Wild Card Saturday. Game on Fox with Joe Davis and Greg Olson on the call. Obviously heard nationally on radio on Westwood One. Ryan Leaf will join us next hour. Look very much forward to that. Ryan Leaf will be on the call of the game on Westwood One. Westwood One's got every single NFL playoff game. As the LA Rams, 10.5-point road favorites at the Carolina Panthers, the NFC South champions at 8-9. Terrible division. Total of the game is 46. Two injury notes here, which I think probably go or a little bit off the radar as far as a lot of fans are concerned because it's offensive linemen, interior linemen. But I think both matter as far as the game is going to be, at least who's going to cover the spread. I don't think it impacts who's going to win. Kevin Dotson, get into a Benz out of that Dotson. Kevin Dotson will miss this game for the Rams, one of their guards. Not great going up against Derek Brown on the Panthers' defensive line. And it looks like the Panthers are going to have stud guard Robert Hunt, who hasn't played since week 2, and he's going to be back in the lineup today for Carolina. So let's, for a moment, get in the old you better you bet time machine and go back not that long ago, November 30th, when the Panthers and the Rams played in Charlotte. So this was like 5 weeks ago these two teams played. The Panthers won that game 31-28. And if you have that piece of information, and then you see the point spread of this game, Rams a 10.5-point road favorite, you may be thinking, like, what the hell? Man, I should love Carolina in this game. And I'm not insinuating that Carolina can't cover or win, but hear me out. In that game on November 30th, the Carolina Panthers won the turnover battle 3-0. And, like, they forced the turnovers. It's not like all of that has to be luck. They get some credit for it, absolutely. But they won the turnover battle 3-0. They went, the Panthers did, 7 of 15 on third down and 3 for 3 on fourth down. Everything went right for the Carolina Panthers. And they won by 3. They got so hot on third and fourth down, like your drunk buddy at the roulette table at a bachelor party in Las Vegas. We've all been there. We've all seen it happen. And they won by 3. Now, just because that happened in November does not mean it can't happen again. That's like the gambler's fallacy, right? Like ball lands, it's red 8 times in a row in roulette, and you're thinking, well, now it has to be black. No, it doesn't. It could be red another 50 times. It could be whatever. It doesn't have to be black. It could happen again. It doesn't have to be that now the Rams win the turnover battle 3-0, and the Rams are white hot on third and fourth down. It doesn't have to go that way. But let's just assume for a moment, and I think this is a safe assumption to make. Even I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's a safe assumption that things kind of regress a little bit towards the median, right? Where maybe the Panthers aren't as good on third and fourth down, and maybe the Rams don't throw a pick 6 in the game. Maybe that doesn't happen. How are the Rams losing? Forget about the point spread for a second. Let's just talk winners and losers. How are the Rams going to lose this game? Seriously, like that's how they lose. Like, you get that kind of outcome. It's possible. It just feels really unlikely. So I think the Rams are going to win. And I know that's not exactly like, wow, what an earth-shattering take. 10.5-point favorite in game will win. But yeah, I do think they're going to win. And I do think the Rams are one of 2 teams, the other being the Philadelphia Eagles, who we'll get to in a little bit, that are most likely to win the Super Bowl. As far as the side and total are concerned in the game, the Rams 10.5, this has been bet up from 10. Do I think the Rams will cover? Maybe. I mean, they could be up big in the game, and there's rain in the forecast. We'll see what happens with the weather. Possible Carolina can backdoor the game at the end with Bryce Young. Mine's out of the gutter, people. We're talking point spreads. It's possible. So how do I want to bet this game? I'd like to use the Rams as a money line parlay piece. And I'm cooking up a money line parlay, and I will share it with you a little later in the show that has the Rams in it. Lean towards the under in the game. I'm thinking something like 27-14 final score for the Rams, 27-17, somewhere in that range, where the Rams win probably by multiple scores. Do they cover the spread? Maybe. I would be absolutely floored if the Panthers won this game. I do not think this is going to be like the Beastquake game. Seattle finishing under 500, beating 11-5 Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. I don't think this is going to be that, which is a famous NFL wildcard game. I do think the Rams will win. I think they'll win fairly comfortably. I think they will advance on to the divisional rounds of the NFL playoffs. You better you bet wildcard Saturday. Nick Kostos here with you. Countdown to kickoff on Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. You can subscribe to our new YouTube page. I would encourage you to do that. YouTube.com/@thekostos. TheKostos, so you never miss any of the show during the week or on the weekend editions of You Better You Bet. That takes us now to 8 p.m. Eastern tonight on Amazon Prime. This will be, tonight, the most traffic that Amazon has ever had since the last time my wife logged on to order 7,000 things to our house for our daughter. Like, Jeff Bezos had that sick wedding in Venice. I'm pretty sure that I bankrolled that wedding for Jeff Bezos with all the purchases that my family makes on Amazon. Al Michael, I think a lot of husbands right now, some wives also, are nodding along right now. Like, yes, I understand what you're saying here. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the call. A rivalry renewed. One of the longest and most storied rivalries, not just in the National Football League. No. All of sports. As the Chicago Bears host the Green Bay Packers. Oh, man, come on, be honest. Does that get your juices flowing a little bit? You're a big sports fan? I hope it. If it doesn't, I don't know, maybe you're watching the wrong. Maybe you need a new hobby if this doesn't get you going. The 7 seed Green Bay Packers, despite being the road team in this game tonight in Chicago, Green Bay currently favored at BetMGM. Packers a 1.5-point road favorite, 44.5 the total. Rome Odunze and DJ Moore both going to play in this game for the Chicago Bears, which is obviously good news for Ben Johnson and good news for Caleb Williams. Now, the thing that we've got to talk about here as far as this game is concerned, before we break it down and I give you like who I think is going to win the game, there is some inclement weather expected in the forecast, which should surprise no one. It's an outdoor game at night in January in Chicago, the Windy City. So, of course, there's wind expected in the forecast. And there's potential snow showers as well. So we might have snow on the field tonight. This is going to be, like, sick, obviously, if that's the case. It's going to be an amazing viewing experience. And obviously, you'll be able to listen to the game on Westwood One tonight with our friends Ryan Radke and Mike Golick Sr. on the radio. Going to be awesome. Can't wait for it to listen and to watch the game tonight. Now, it's not snow. And think about this for a second, right? And if you've heard me say this, I apologize, but I have a huge audience here for these shows. So just in case no one has heard this before, I need to say it. It's not snow that screws up offenses. Like, offensive players know where they're going before the ball is snapped, right? Defensive players don't. So snow and rain can actually benefit an offense and can potentially lead to more scoring. It's winds that can screw up a passing offense. If we get into like the 25, 30 mile per hour category, like that's where we might have some trouble. So I am not a meteorologist, right? But listen, we all have this thing called the internet at our disposal where you can look up, or on your phone, you can look up what the weather is anywhere in the world right now. It's pretty amazing. Been able to do that for a long time. As it stands at this moment in time, and I know this show replays throughout the day. We're doing this on Saturday morning. So things can change. So make sure whenever you want to place a bet on this game, if that's what tickles your fancy, that you know what the weather is going to be. What is the wind going to be, right? Because that's going to impact how the game plays out. So at this moment right now, as I'm on the air here, the wind does not look like it's going to be a significant factor in the game. Does not. That can change. Weather is very fickle, obviously, right? We know that because we're humans and we live and we see it all the time. And if the wind is not expected to be a factor, I like the Green Bay Packers. And I know that the show is on 670 The Score in Chicago. And I know like a lot of, I'm on in Chicago on TV and radio a lot. And I hope that just to the Chicago fans, because I love you guys, you know I'm not a Bears hater. And nationally, to everyone out there watching and listening, I am not a Bears hater. I bet the Bears before the year to win the NFC North. I won money when Chicago won the division. I loved the Bears this season. I'm not anti-Chicago Bear. I think they're probably, though, and I think this is fair, probably a year early as far as being like a legitimate contender. And I understand that the Packers are not at full strength, right? Micah Parsons is done for the year. That hurts. They're down some other key players. But look, I think the Packers are better than the Bears. And I can be wrong about that, right? It's the point spread intimates that this is a coin flippy type of game. I trust the Packers tonight. I do. So if the wind's not going to be bad, I'm going to like Green Bay. And I think Jordan Love can have a nice game. And I also think the game will go over the total if that's the case. 44.5 is the number right now. If the wind's not going to be bad, I like both these offenses. I like both play callers. I will like the over. This needs to be said, though. If we get to kickoff tonight, and we'll be watching the pregame, we'll be listening to the game on Westwood One, right? and the wind is really bad. Like the goalposts are moving, the flags are swirling, and it's crazy, right? I actually think that benefits Chicago because I like the Bears' offensive line. I like the Bears' physical run game and the Thunder and Lightning with Swift and Monangai. If that's the case, I give the Bears a much better chance to win than if the wind is not bad. So my handicap and bet on the game is somewhat contingent on the weather. But look, it's January. The game's being played outdoors. I do think that sort of thing really matters. The last thing I'll bring up on this game, as far as a storyline, whether you think this is right, wrong, or indifferent, we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of smoke with the story. And when there's smoke, there could potentially be a fire. Now, I think this would be nuts. So, I don't agree with this. But there's a lot of smoke and noise that if the Packers lose tonight to the Chicago Bears, then Matt LaFleur could be out of a job. And maybe would John Harbaugh be interested in Green Bay? Would Matt LaFleur go coach the Miami Dolphins, who just hired the Packers vice president of player personnel yesterday, John Eric Sullivan, to be their general manager? So the storylines from tonight's game aren't just tied to the NFL postseason. It could potentially have an impact on the NFL coaching carousel as well. Something to think about as we head into Saturday night with the Bears and the Packers at Soldier Field. Coming up next, I will give you my thoughts, opinions, bets on Sunday's 3-pack of games in the NFL playoffs. And we will start with the player with the most pressure on him entering this postseason. And I'm not talking Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coming up next, countdown to kickoff on Westwood One Sports.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Cook, single setback, 2nd and 4, Buffalo. Handoff. Cook gets around 3 defenders and then kicks it to another gear. Cook still going, looking for the angle. Touchdown! Wow, tremendous run!
This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
CBS courtesy of the call, our friend Ian Eagle. Speaking of Ian Eagle, you will hear Ian Eagle and Ross Tucker on the call tomorrow of the Niners and the Eagles from Philadelphia on Westwood One. So later today, Jason Benetti and Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf will join us next hour here on the show, live from Carolina. They'll have the call of the Rams and the Panthers. Ryan Radke and Mike Golick Sr. tonight with the Packers and the Bears on Westwood One. Kevin Kugler, Mike Mayock tomorrow with the Bills and the Jags. Sunday Night Football, Tom McCarthy and Derek Rackley with the Chargers and the Patriots. And then Monday Night Football, Texans and Steelers, Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner on the call for Westwood One. Our show sponsor is BetMGM, and the big boys are about to battle. We want you, dear listener and dear viewer, to attach your no-sweat token to a qualifying playoffs bet and get back bonus bets if you don't win. Make it legendary with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. And always, please, gamble responsibly. So we know that the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen and company are going to need a big postseason from James Cook to make it happen. Winning the rushing title, one of the best running backs in the National Football League. But we don't need to mince words here. And I'm going to get right to the point. Because tomorrow, the Bills and the Jaguars in Duval. We're basically at a pick-em price right now for this game at Bet. And just to say this, and again, this show is live on Saturday morning, replays throughout the day. The Panthers are getting bet a little bit at 10.5. So if you want to bet Carolina, I would maybe consider doing that sooner rather than later. And if you like the Rams, you may get a better price to bet LA over the course of the day. And we have actually seen, and again, like this can change, betting markets can move. We have actually seen now the Jaguars have flipped to being the favorite in the game. This is real time. Early on Saturday morning, show replays throughout the day. So if you're listening on Saturday afternoon, just understand the time at which we're live right now. The Jaguars have now flipped to being the favorite at BetMGM. Jacksonville is now a 1-point favorite in the game, which I find to be so incredibly interesting and fascinating. And I'm going to say it. And I said it last week prior to Ravens-Steelers in the AFC North title game on Sunday Night Football. And a lot of people, maybe you, in the listening audience and the viewing audience, maybe you were one of the people that told me, Nick Kostos, at the Kostos on all socials, follow me there. I would appreciate it. That you told me I was crazy because I said if the Ravens lose, they're going to fire John Harbaugh, and that John Harbaugh should be fired. Not that he's not a great coach, but that this has run its course. The expiration date has been reached. It's like you have a thing of milk, and you're about to take a swig, or maybe make your daughter's bottle. Maybe you're me. And you look at it and say, this son of a bitch expired 2 months ago. Do you drink it? No. You throw it out because it's expired. John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens expired a while ago. And if the Buffalo Bills lose in Jacksonville on Sunday afternoon, Sean McDermott needs to be fired. Immediate before the plane leaves Duval. And honestly, before the Bills land back in Western New York, John Harbaugh should be the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not saying that McDermott and Harbaugh are bad coaches. They're great coaches. They would both get jobs in this cycle if they wanted them and be like and I'm a Giants fan. I would like for either to coach my team. Just that it feels like the expiration date's probably been reached. It was reached for Harbaugh. And if McDermott this year, think about it, right? There's no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar, no excuses for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to not at least get to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen should be the main character in the AFC playoffs. He should be the main character in the AFC playoffs. And they're a dog in the game right now at BetMGM. If the Bills can't beat the Jaguars, this would be like you or me going to see the new John Wick movie and Keanu Reeves dies a half hour into the movie. You'd fire the director if that were the case. The Bills can't lose. I don't care about the run defense. I don't care about the lack of weapons and the lack of speed for Buffalo and Josh Allen. Here's what I know. Josh Allen's the best player. And if Josh Allen's Josh Allen, if Josh Allen puts on the Superman cape, the Bills are going to win. They're going to. If we get to the end of the game tomorrow on Sunday, right, with the Bills and the Jags, and we say Josh Allen was Superman in this game, do you think the Bills are losing that game if that's the case? Trevor Lawrence is a damn good player. I'm a Trevor Lawrence guy. I'm a Trevor Lawrence truther. He's not Josh Allen. Nobody is in the AFC playoff field. He's the best. And he got to put the team on his back. And just to be clear, if the Bills lose, I'm not going to say like Josh Allen should be traded or like Josh Allen sucks or that it's his fault. I know that the Bills have issues with their roster construction. But bottom line, in an AFC playoff field that doesn't feature Mahomes, Burrow, or Lamar, no excuse for the Buffalo Bills. And I think it's so interesting that the Jags are now favored in the game. I like Buffalo. I do think you'll get that Josh Allen Superman performance. I do think he steps into the phone booth and emerges, not that he's Clark Kent. Or like Haley Steinfeld is Lois Lane. Not saying that. But I think he emerges as Superman. And he gets the job done, and the Bills win. But look, the Jaguars can obviously run it with Travis Etienne and rookie Bashal Tutin. Bills can't stop the run. You can envision a scenario where the Jaguars win. But what do I think is going to happen? I think Buffalo's going to win the game. And if they don't, see ya, Sean McDermott. You better, you bet's countdown to kickoff. Westwood One Sports, Wild Card Saturday with me, Nick Kostos, and you, whoever the hell you are. Sunday afternoon, the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles are now out to a 6-point favorite in this game against San Fran, and that number has gotten blasted throughout the week. The total sitting at 44.5. The Niners are obviously the walking wounded, and the Eagles sat their guys last week. The Niners played Saturday night at home against Seattle in a game to win the NFC West and home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs, and got shoved into a locker by Mike McDonald and the Seattle Seahawks, who are not playing this weekend because they have the bye and home field advantage in the NFC playoffs. So we don't know if Trent Williams is going to play. You know, the future first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle for San Francisco, or if Ricky Pearsall is going to play, one of their best wide receivers for the Niners. While the Eagles got healthy last week, with Nick Sirianni and company deciding to basically turn it into a glorified preseason game, which they lost to the Commanders. Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter, both going to be back for Philadelphia. And going into the games last week in Week 18, I was kind of thinking, man, maybe the Eagles should play to win. Because if the Bears lose, which they did to the Lions, and the Eagles win, Philly gets up to the 2 seed. With how this has turned out, with the Niners kind of being the walking wounded, and I think Kyle Shanahan has done an unbelievable job this season. He's great. The Niners have so many damn injuries. Like, that's why this point spread is what it is. It's not because people are, like, down on the, like, think Kyle Shanahan stinks or Brock Purdy stinks. They're so damn injured. Like, the defense is not good. And I know you may be out there watching or listening and saying, well, the Eagles' offense has stunk all year. Performance issues in the big spot all year. Impotent all year. Well, I call the San Francisco 49ers defense Viagra. Because they go and fix these performance issues for the Eagles' offense. If the Eagles can't score points against San Francisco's defense tomorrow, like Kevin Patullo should have to stand trial before Nicolas Maduro. It'd be a crime if the Eagles can't score against the Niners defense. And that's not a shot at Robert Saleh, the Niners defensive coordinator. They're without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, and the whole linebacking core is hurt. Like, they are an injury-ravaged team. Do I think the Eagles will cover the spread? Maybe. I wouldn't bet San Francisco, I'll tell you that. But the number's gotten blasted out to 6. Feels like we're just correct at this point now. I do like the Eagles as part of a money line parlay. And I mentioned the Rams earlier as another one. Now, I will include a third leg to that moneyline parlay next hour on the show as a bet that I will place coming up on Wild Card Weekend. Hour 1 done. Hour 2 for you. Countdown to kickoff coming up on the other side. Ryan Leaf will join us live from Carolina to talk Wild Card Weekend. Best Bets will close the show, including Thy Royal Prop King, but we will start the hour previewing the Patriots and the Chargers, Sunday Night Football, and I'll tell you who I've got playing for Super Bowl 60 in the Bay Area.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Countdown to kickoff.
Downfield, launching downfield, going for it all! It is caught! Bears win it! DJ Moore!
We've got you set for all the weekend's postseason action.
Stafford floats it. Nakua's the target! Oh! Puka Nakua! On this crucial fourth down, Young, McMillan, got it! Touchdown! Panthers lead!
From sides to totals to props, we've got you covered. It's You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. Here's your host, Nick Kostos.
Hour number 2, countdown to kickoff, wild card, Saturday in the National Football League. What a time to be alive. What a weekend we have ahead of us. Westwood One NFL analyst Ryan Leaf will be on the call of the Panthers-Rams game on national radio later this afternoon, along with Jason Benetti. Ryan Leaf will join us coming up in about 20 minutes, talking all things wild card weekend in the NFL. Best bets for all the games this weekend will close the show, along with Thy Royal Prop King. We started the show, though, talking about what we saw last night. Just the beatdown, the annihilation, the devastation, the obliteration, the evisceration of the Oregon Ducks at the hands of Curt Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, and the Indiana Hoosiers. 56-22 final score, if you missed it. And the game probably, honestly, not even as close as the final score indicates, and Indiana won by 34. Curt Cignetti, what he's done at Indiana, 1 win away from a national championship. 7.5-point favorite next Monday night in Miami against Miami for the national championship. There's no analog that exists in American sports history for what Curt Cignetti has done at Indiana. I look at him as Heisenberg from Breaking Bad. Say his name, Google him, he is the one who knocks. And if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan today, and I know miserable season, Pete Carroll fired, offensive line terrible, number 1 pick in the NFL draft, I think today's a great day for you. And hopefully you were doing cartwheels last night, watching Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza slicing and dicing the Oregon defense, making every throw you could possibly want a quarterback to make, showing escapability in the pocket, moving around, running for first downs, spin moves, hitting that circle button. I think yesterday was the best day for the Las Vegas Raiders, the Raiders franchise, wherever they're playing, whatever city they're in, since the Oakland Raiders beat the Tennessee Titans in the AFC Championship game in 2002. Because now Mendoza's going to be your franchise quarterback in all likelihood. And do I think Mark Davis and Tom Brady should write a blank check for Curt Cignetti to come coach the Raiders with Mendoza? Of course. How could you not think that? Hoosiers, a 7.5-point favorite in the Natty, coming up Monday night, January 19th, against the Hurricanes. I kind of want to bet Miami, which probably tells you Indiana's the right bet in the game. We'll talk about that as we move towards that game on the weekday edition of You Better You Bet, weekdays 9 a.m. to noon Eastern on Westwood One Sports, youtube.com/@thekostos. You can hit me up on all socials at the Kostos. Got into many of the games, Wild Card Weekend, gave you all the big storylines. My betting takes on the games. We'll finalize the betting card at the end of the show. The one game of the 5 this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Texans Steelers coming up on Monday night, that we didn't get to is Sunday Night Football with the Patriots and the Chargers in Foxborough. New England at BetMGM right now is a 3.5-point home favorite in the game. The total is 45.5. So the under getting bet a little bit in the game. The big piece of injury news in this game, and it's good news for the Chargers, it looks like the Chargers will have the services of first-round rookie running back Omari Hampton, who barely practiced this week after not playing in Week 18, but Hampton telling reporters yesterday that he's going to play in the game. So not 100%, obviously, but it feels like more likely than not that the Chargers will have their number 1 running back to play the New England Patriots on Sunday night. And last week, in Week 18, the LA Chargers sat all their starters, and the Broncos end up smashing them in the game, and Denver, by virtue of that win, gets home field advantage and the bye in the AFC playoffs. And you can certainly say, and it's correct to say, that Jim Harbaugh did the right thing by sitting his starters. Most notably, star quarterback Justin Herbert, who's basically like the NFL quarterback equivalent of the knight from Monty Python, like playing without limbs, like broken bone in his hand, without his two starting, like all-pro offensive tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, just getting smashed all season long and hanging in the pocket. He a tough son of a bitch, man, Justin Herbert. Had a great season for the Bolts. So yeah, made sense to sit him in a game that didn't really matter for the Chargers last week, and just in terms of playoff seeding. But in addition to Harbaugh getting the benefit of getting his team healthier last week and treating it kind of like a preseason game to a degree, I actually think this worked out in terms of the opponent for the Chargers. And if you're listening to this right now in the New England area, watching this from the New England area, I sincerely do not mean that to be disrespectful to Drake May, Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, and the New England Patriots. I'm a huge Drake May fan. I loved him last year. I bet the Patriots to make the playoffs before the year. Did I think this would happen? No. But I'm not surprised that the Patriots are really good with a really good head coach in Mike Vrabel and a stud young quarterback in Drake May. But let's call a spade a spade. The Patriots defense is not one to write home about. And if you're a Chargers fan, and I don't know how many there are, but if you're a Chargers fan, and your offensive line stinks the way theirs does, like not a point that's debatable that the Chargers' offensive line is the weak spot of the team, like this would be the opponent you'd want to face because they don't have a great pass rush, the Patriots. And again, if you're a big Patriots fan, like spot the lie. Have I told a lie? No. And I'm not saying the Chargers should be favored in the game, like New England should be favored in the game. And Drake May should be an MVP candidate. I think Matthew Stafford should probably win, but if Drake May wins, I'm not going to be upset about it. That's how good he was. But if you wanted to draw up an opponent for the Chargers to potentially have success against, it would be this one, where maybe the Patriots can't get home. Maybe the Patriots can't pressure Justin Herbert. And if that's the case, you don't think Justin Herbert can throw the ball successfully on this Patriots defense? Like, you don't think that can happen? So yesterday, and the NFL All-Pro, is this true that the All-Pro list just came out here on Saturday morning? Matthew Stafford was named first-team All-Pro. Now, I believe last year that Lamar Jackson was named first-team All-Pro and then Josh Allen won MVP. So we don't have to look too much into that Stafford was named first-team All-Pro. Like last year, first-team All-Pro quarterback did not win MVP. Josh Allen did. So this doesn't mean that Drake May can't win, but I do think that that's a little interesting, right? Yesterday, Friday, Friday, on You Better You Bet, I was joined by my friend, pro sports bettor Rob Pizzola. And Rob said something, and I really respect Rob, and he's very respected in the sports betting community. He said something I thought was interesting, and I can't disagree with it. That this feels like a game that has what we call extreme outcomes, where, why can't the Chargers win this game if they can protect Justin Herbert or cover a 3.5-point spread? But also, what if Drake May and the Patriots offense goes nuclear in the game? Certainly can happen. Or Herbert's hand isn't 100% healthy. The Patriots could win this game by double digits. So my betting opinion on the game, I think the Chargers are going to keep this game close, and I think they can win. But I don't have to be right. I'm wrong all the time. Just ask my wife. So if you like New England, I would lay Patriots minus 6.5, minus 9.5. New England could win this game big. Doesn't have to be a close New England win. What do I want to do? I think the Chargers will keep the game close. I like the Chargers to cover the spread. And I actually think the Chargers are going to win the game. You better you bet. Wildcard Saturday. Westwood One Sports with me, Nick Kostos, and you, whoever the hell you are. The show presented by BetMGM. Ryan Leaf is going to join us in a little bit. But before we're joined by Westwood One NFL analyst and former NFL quarterback Ryan Leaf, I'd like to fill out my Super Bowl NFL playoff brackets. And there's a couple things I'd like to accomplish with this segment, if you will indulge me. First, I want to give you my opinion, obviously, because I've got the microphone. This is also meant to be an exercise for you, the listener, and you, the viewer, to listen and watch along with me. And you don't have to agree with me. I can be wrong. What do you think's going to happen? And even if you don't bet, which is totally fine, I think it's really fun to think about, right? You would have to agree with that. Fun to think about who's going to play and win the Super Bowl. And if you do bet, maybe you stumble upon a Super Bowl exact matchup bet that you can place, where you can get a big price on something on one of these matchups, right? Or maybe you figure out, oh man, like I actually really like this team and the path they have to get to and win the Super Bowl. Maybe you place a bet. And please, of course, always bet responsibly. So we'll start in the AFC. The Broncos are the 1 seed with home field advantage, so we'll leave Denver alone for just a moment. Patriots-Chargers coming up tomorrow night. I absolutely think the Chargers can win this game. And even more so than that, like, can the Patriots go to the Super Bowl? Of course they can. They definitely can. And I do have some Super Bowl exactas placed from a while back that have the Patriots in them. But I don't like this Patriots defense when it comes down to it. I'm not saying they can't get there. Not trying to be a hater. I know fan bases are sensitive. I'm a Giants fan. I can be sensitive. I don't mean it as an insult. For the purposes of this conversation, I'll take the Chargers to win the game as the 7 seed. Just give me the Chargers to beat the Patriots tomorrow night. Jaguars and the Bills tomorrow in the 3-6 matchup. And I said this last hour, and in case anyone missed it, again, even if you don't bet, isn't this interesting to think about, that the Jaguars are now favored in the game against the Buffalo Bills. Bills open to favorite, have been favored all week. And as we approach kickoff, and the Bills are usually the team that gets bet on game day. So maybe that'll happen tomorrow. Maybe the Bills close a 2.5-point road favorite. I have no idea. But as of right now, the Jaguars are favored. And I disagree with that. I think Josh Allen does put the Superman cape on. And I like the Bills to beat the Jaguars tomorrow. So give me Buffalo to beat the Jags. So I have the 6 and 7 seeds advancing in the AFC playoffs thus far. And yes, I do think this is a wide open playoff field. How could it not be if it doesn't include Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow? Monday Night Football. The 4 seed Pittsburgh Steelers, a home underdog against the Houston Texans. I have said all week on You Better You Bet. I said it on Pittsburgh radio yesterday. I think the Steelers are going to win. And I think Pittsburgh +3 is the easiest bet on the board. I don't trust Houston's offense. Houston's offensive line is still not very good. And I think TJ Watt and company can impact CJ Stroud in the Texans offense. DK Metcalf back off of his suspension. Give me the Steelers to win. And that will set up a divisional round of the AFC playoffs where we will get the 1 seed Broncos hosting the 7 seed Chargers. I'd like to make a case for LA in the game, but this is where the Chargers' lack of a great offensive line will hurt them in Denver at altitude against that Broncos pass rush, Nick Bonito and company. I'll take the Broncos over the Chargers. And in the Steelers-Bills divisional round game in Pittsburgh, I think that game would go like it did in the regular season, and the Buffalo Bills would beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, which means we would get an AFC championship game, a rematch of the 1991 AFC championship game. That one was played in Western New York. Bills beat John Elway and the Broncos 10-7, en route to losing and getting blown out by the then Washington Redskins in Super Bowl 26 in Minneapolis. Bills at Broncos. I'll take Josh Allen over Bo Nix. I have Buffalo winning the AFC. Bills +500 is the price. Now, doesn't have to go that way. The Bills can lose tomorrow. This is my bracket. You can figure out what yours is as well. To the NFC. I got the Packers over the Bears tonight, so I have the 7 seed advancing in both conferences. Green Bay over Chicago tonight. To everyone listening on 670, The Score in Chicago, I promise I don't hate your team. Next year, we can talk about the Bears maybe winning the Super Bowl. This year, I don't see it. And, of course, Chicago can win. I'll take the Packers to win the game tonight. The 3 seed Eagles, I think, will handle the Niners tomorrow. And I think San Francisco's awesome, and I love Kyle Shanahan, but they're the walking wounded. Philly wins. And I think the Rams will, I don't know if they'll cover the spread, but I do think they will beat the Panthers today. So Packers, Eagles, Rams, winners this weekend in the NFC playoffs, which would set up divisional round in the NFC. Another Seahawks-Packers playoff game. And what could go wrong for Green Bay? The 1 seed Seahawks with home field, hosting the 7 seed Packers. I take Seattle to win. And then you would get, in my opinion, the two best teams in the league. And I think one of these two teams will win the Super Bowl, the Eagles or Rams. And maybe it's the Rams, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Rams did beat the Eagles. But Philly's the home team in the game. I'll take the Eagles to beat the LA Rams, if that's the matchup on divisional weekend. Which means we get an NFC Championship game in Seattle, Eagles at Seahawks. And here's where I step off the Sam Darnold train, and I'll back the Eagles to win the NFC plus 425. Which means we get Super Bowl 60, a rematch of a game that we saw at the end of December with the Eagles and the Bills. And Philly won that game. The Bills go for 2 at the end, and Josh Allen misses Khalil Shakir wide open, and the Eagles win that game. And I think the Eagles would handle the Bills in the Super Bowl if they played. I don't think the game would be as close as it was in the regular season. So if you agree with me, Eagles versus Bills, exacta, 50-1 right now at BetMGM. BetMGM also has a Super Bowl MVP market open right now, and obviously bet responsibly. This can be a betting conversation or something that's fun to think about. Who do you, the listener, you, the viewer, think is going to win the Super Bowl? You're going to get a really good price if you want to bet that. Put a couple bucks on it now, obviously, before any of the games are played. So if the Eagles play the Bills, I think the Eagles would run it down their throat. Saquon Barkley is a huge price right now to win MVP. He would be my choice at the moment, Saquon Barkley, to win Super Bowl Most Valuable Player. Now, maybe you're listening, watching, and you're like, man, I actually think it's going to be Denver in the AFC. And I love the Rams. Or maybe you love the Seahawks. Or you think the Bears can make a run. Or hell, maybe it's Drake May and the Patriots. You can be right. And that's what's so much fun about this particular postseason. More than so many others, we are looking at something that is wide the F open, especially in the AFC. NFC, I think it's between the Eagles, the Rams, and the Seahawks, and I would put the Seahawks third on that list. But in the AFC, the only two teams that I think can't get there are the Steelers, because I don't think they have the oomph on offense, and the Chargers because of the offensive line. You can make a case for any of the other 5 teams to potentially get there. Isn't that awesome? Isn't it absolutely the best? We'll close the show coming up about 25 minutes from now with all the bets for tonight in the wild card rounds of the playoffs and for tomorrow as well. Ryan Leaf's going to join us on the other side. And how about this? And this is per NFL media insider Ian Rappaport, who just tweeted that the Green Bay Packers and head coach Matt LaFleur will meet shortly after the season ends to discuss extending his contract, with both sides hoping for a great outcome. Okay. I'm going to translate this for everyone. LaFleur's contract expires after next season. This may, like I said it last hour, don't be shocked if the Packers lose tonight and they fire Matt LaFleur, or they mutually agree to part ways. Like, the groundwork is being laid for it right now, that both sides are hoping for a great outcome. That doesn't mean you're going to get the great outcome. Like, the groundwork is being laid for a potential Matt LaFleur leaving the Green Bay Packers if tonight's game does not go well, and maybe if they lose next weekend as well. John Harbaugh's looming. We'll see what happens with the Bills tomorrow with Sean McDermott. Ah, man, the coaching carousel in full swing in the NFL. Take a quick break. On the other side, Ryan Leaf, former NFL quarterback, Westwood One NFL analyst, will be on the call. National Radio Today with Jason Benetti of the Panthers and the Rams will join me, Nick Kostos, and you, our listening and viewing audience, to talk all things Wild Card Weekend on Westwood One Sports.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Young, shot for the win. It is held on to by Coker.
This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Fox Sports courtesy of the call back on November 30th. The Carolina Panthers upset the Los Angeles Rams, winning the turnover battle 3-0, 7 of 15 on third down, 3 for 3 on fourth down. Panthers still won the game, though. Got to give them credit. They hope to pull a similar upset today against the LA Rams to advance to the divisional round of the playoffs. Westwood One NFL analyst Ryan Leaf will join us in just a moment. He will be on the call nationally of the game along with Jason Benetti later on Saturday afternoon. But we got to tell you for a moment about our show sponsor and title sponsor, BetMGM, because the biggest games of the year, they're kicking off, and we want you to use an Odds Boost token to score a bigger payout if your pro football playoff bet wins. Make it legendary with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Joining us right now, the aforementioned. I haven't spoken to him since Radio Row at the Super Bowl last year. I think he's so good in this role, and I'm so thrilled to have him on the show here to break down Wild Card Weekend and the Panthers and the Rams. Former NFL quarterback Ryan Leaf on Twitter at Ryan D. Leaf. And just wanted to give a shout out to my guy, Scott Graham, who will be the studio host all weekend long for Westwood One's coverage of the NFL playoffs. Ryan, Nick Kostos here. You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff. Very much appreciate the time. Happy NFL playoffs, my friend, to you and yours.
Oh, it's here. It's so glorious. It's playoff season. It's my favorite weekend of the year, Wild Card Weekend. I think probably the divisional round may be my favorite ultimately, but it's, back-to-back weekends, so how can you complain?
I guess divisional weekend, there's less games, right? Divisional weekend, but usually divisional weekend, you get the real deal Super Bowl contenders. But to your point, they are both absolutely exceptional and can't wait for it. And Ryan, I'd love to go and get and go in chronological order and get your takes on all the games this weekend. But let's start with the one you and Jason Benetti will be calling nationally later this afternoon on Westwood One, the Panthers and the Rams in Carolina. Now, the Panthers, obviously, they upset the Rams like 5 weeks ago. Not that long ago, Carolina won. Betting market thinks the Rams are going to win and win big, about a 10.5 point road favorite. How do you see the game playing out, Ryan? And a key to victory here for the team that you think will win the game is what and why?
Well, yeah, it was just, at the end of November for the Rams. I'm watching the game right now, replaying. They went down on the first drive, the Los Angeles Rams, easy score to Devontae Adams right in the red zone. But the difference in this game, the weather got a little nasty. Matthew Stafford threw a couple interceptions, and Bryce Young didn't turn it over. And that was the recipe to win. I think there are a few things that are going to go play into it for today. I think weather's going to be an issue. It could be very sloppy, like it was a week ago for Carolina, who I thought offensively played really well against Tampa Bay in that type of weather. Bryce Young in particular. I don't think Los Angeles does necessarily well in bad weather. You look at the divisional round last year, the loss in Philadelphia. They probably should have won that game if it weren't for the weather and the snow. So I think that becomes a problem. And then J.C. Horn coming back is a big deal at the corner position. I think his ability to match up against the wide receivers, because it's going to be a full-day sucker going up against this crew with Devontae Adams back. Nothing against my old Coug and Shaw Smith-Wade, but having J.C. Horn back is a big deal for this defense. And then they just played more zone coverage than any defense in the entire country, in the entire league. They just absolutely keep everything in front of them. Not a lot of man coverage. They don't get beat deep. They have fewer 20-plus yard plays through the air than only 2 NFL teams in all the land. So they keep it in a game. I mean, you look at their schedule this year, and there wasn't many opportunities where they just got blown out. They got blown out against the Patriots in New England, but one possession games pretty much throughout the year in wins as well as losses. So they're always in the football game. Whether they get it done or not, that's a different story. So I expect them to be in this football game, plain and simple.
So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, and this does not have to be Ryan Leaf is endorsing a bet on the game, but just because I think this stuff's really interesting, it sounds like, Ryan, like you think this is going to be a close game today, right? Maybe that doesn't mean it comes down to the wire, but it at least sounds like you think the game is going to be close. Do I have that right? Am I speaking out of turn when I say that? And do you think the Panthers are going to pull the outright upset today against the LA Rams?
I don't think they're going to pull the outright upset. I do think with that, when you get to playoff time, and I'm always fearful of double-digit spreads, even in the regular season. I love to kind of look at those types of games, and so I do like the Panthers plus the points in this game. I think that's a win because they just play one-possession games. They just do. They have this game manager role by a guy by the name of George Lee, and he is exceptional in terms of getting Dave Canales in good situations. In fact, Canales calls him unbelievable in terms of making the games close. And because they've struggled offensively to kind of find their role, bringing along Bryce Young, using young wide receivers, Xavier Legette last year, Tet McMillan this year as a rookie, bringing those Jalen Coker's a year 2 guy out of Holy Cross. And so they haven't been necessarily explosive. They've had to play tough, close games. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if this game came down to, Rams by a touchdown, or if you can get the half a point at 10.5, that would be great, because if the Rams win 30-20, that wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, so we have right now the Panthers getting bet in the market, Ryan, here as we do this Saturday morning, and I know the show replays throughout the day, but as it stands at this moment right now, Carolina 10.5 is the side that's getting bet. Maybe we see this close with the Rams, a 10-point road favorite in Carolina. Can't wait for you and Jason Benetti, the call nationally on Westwood One. Let's spin around the rest of Wild Card Weekend here, and Ryan, would love to get your opinion on tonight's game. That'll be our friends Ryan Radke and Mike Golick Sr. on Westwood One for the Packers and the Bears, part 3 of this rivalry this year at Soldier Field. Both teams winning at home, but despite that, Ryan, the Green Bay Packers, a favorite in this game at BetMGM. Green Bay, a 1.5-point road favorite. Total in the game, 44.5. Potential snow in the forecast. Obviously, wind, as one might expect. Outdoors, night, January, Windy City. What do you think we see tonight, part 3, Green Bay and Chicago?
Well, that line doesn't surprise me. I was on the call in Chicago a few weeks ago for that matchup, and the Packers did everything worldly possible to lose that game. They were in the red zone 6 times in the red zone, and came away with 6 points. They also gave up an onside kick, which only happened 5 times up to that point. They lost their quarterback to a concussion right before halftime. They absolutely did everything. They gave up a last-minute touchdown on an all-out blitz, and then, of course, fumbled on a 4th down in overtime while they were going in for a possible, leading touchdown. So it doesn't surprise me at all. They've dominated this series. If Chicago got something and some sort of confidence back with that win and the way they did it, it was kind of how they've won games all year long. But then, what do? They go out and lose the final 2 games of the season to San Francisco on the road in a really good game, and then that game at home to finish the year against the Detroit Lions. So I don't quite know. Green Bay then went on, didn't play Jordan Love, and lost the final 2 games too. So, it's not that these 2 teams are coming in on any big winning streaks, but it is a rivalry. Coach Matt LaFleur, certainly knows how to win against the Chicago Bears. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the Pack are favored in this game.
Yeah, Green Bay, as it stands right now, a 1.5-point road favorite at the Bears tonight. Just last one on this game, Ryan. I'm curious if you agree or disagree with my sentiment here. As it stands right now, it doesn't look like the wind is going to be too crazy for tonight's game. And I like Green Bay in the game, and I've been consistent on that all week. If the wind is going to be nuts tonight for this one, I actually think it benefits Chicago because I like the Bears' offensive line and I like their run game with the Andre Swift and Kyle Manun guy. Do you agree with that sentiment that, we listen to the game on Westwood One, you watch the game on TV, and the goalposts are swirling and the crowd's going nuts? Would that benefit the Chicago Bears if the wind is nuts tonight at Soldier Field?
Well, it was nuts 3 weeks ago. I mean, it was crazy. They had to start the kicks outside the uprights and get them to curve back in. So both these teams have experienced that in this atmosphere. Jordan Love only played a half of it, so maybe that benefits Chicago. But I think when you put it in that situation, both quarterbacks are clearly capable of playing in that. I think both teams can run the ball incredibly well. I'm with you. I do like Chicago's offensive line a little bit more, but it's not something that I think gives any team in this situation some sort of advantage.
You bet. Countdown to kickoff, wildcard Saturday in the National Football League. Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, joined by Westwood One NFL analyst Ryan Leaf. He is on Twitter at Ryan D. Leaf. Ryan, let's look ahead to Sunday's games, and the Bills and the Jaguars is going to be fascinating. Kevin Kugler, Mike Mayock will be on the call for Westwood One, and this morning, Ryan, we have seen the Jacksonville Jaguars have flipped in the betting market where the Jags are now favored against Buffalo. And I've been saying all week, no excuse for Josh Allen and the Bills to not only win this game, but to win the AFC with no Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow. I'm going to keep this one really simple for you, right? And if you don't have a strong opinion, that's okay, but I feel like the question needs to be asked. Who wins tomorrow and why? The Bills and the Jaguars in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think this is the most fascinating playoff game of the weekend. I was kind of secretly hoping I might get this one to call, but they have a great crew on the call there for that one. I'm with you. I think that if you're Buffalo and you're Sean McDermott and this team, you have to feel incredibly confident going into this playoffs because of those three names you mentioned that are not in the playoffs this year. I mean, they are the lone team in the AFC that has a ton of experience. Now, Jacksonville does too. Listen, Trevor Lawrence has been in the playoffs. They made it to the divisional round and that great comeback win against the Chargers in the wild card a few years back. They're playing at a very high level. They're running the ball. I think Travis Etienne has really come on now as a real weapon in this offense. The connection with him and Trevor is really connected right now. So, it's a difficult out. They're scoring a lot of points. They showed going on the road and, really bringing down a Denver Broncos team as the number one seed a few weeks ago shows they're a real problem. Playoff football is different. It just is. We'll see how they respond. Liam Cohen's first playoff game as a head football coach. Duval County is going to be going nuts tomorrow. And then you have the settling factor of Josh Allen. What makes Buffalo great is James Cook. I mean, as good as Allen is, and I get it, James Cook is the reason why they'll ultimately win. If they can be balanced, running the football, using not only Josh Allen's arm, but legs, along with the James Cook, I think he has to get at least 20 carries in this football game. And I like Buffalo just because I like their past, their experience in all this. And I expect them to win, but I'm not going to just hand it over to New England or Denver or Jacksonville or Houston until they prove it. So until they prove it to me, I'm riding with the team that has the experience, has the MVP, and has a chance. Only the problem is they're going to have to go on the road for every single game in the playoffs unless a team behind them can find a way to win.
Yeah, that would be if the Bills Chargers would reopen Highmark Stadium for one more game if we got that AFC Championship game. I like the Bills as well, Ryan.
And that
Last
ain't
note
happening.
on this game.
And that ain't happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening either. But just to say, like that would get the Ralph open for one more game if it were Bills Chargers in the AFC title game. We'll do quick hitters on the other two games this weekend.
There are two teams.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are two teams out of the 14 that can't win the Super Bowl, in my opinion, and it's the Carolina Panthers and it's the Los Angeles Chargers. So that gives you how up in the air the opportunity is for, if you're out there looking for odds, too. 12 of the 14 teams have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year.
So I think that's it. So I said earlier in the show, and we're going to go a little bit off schedule here, that I felt like in the AFC, the Chargers and the Steelers can't make the Super Bowl. Chargers' offensive line's not good enough. I like the Steelers on Monday night against Houston. I don't think they have the offensive oomph to get them over the finish line. You think Pittsburgh could potentially make a deep run here in the AFC playoffs, represent the conference in Super Bowl 60?
Yes, of course. I mean, they can get. I think it's going to be really difficult to get by Houston. That defense is unbelievable, and C.J. Stroud has figured out how to play within himself in this offense with a defense like that. My only worry is the weather. I've watched him go in the divisional round to Kansas City and Baltimore over the last 2 years and get beat. Are they able to go do it on Monday night in the cold and get that win? I don't see why they couldn't. But Pittsburgh easily could win that football game. And then you got to look and, if the likes, and then you got to look at where they would go then. They would go to New England maybe as the number 2 seed. Because if Buffalo wins, you just don't know what that's going to look like. Or do they go to Denver? And I think they'd have a better chance at Denver than they would at New England. You maybe throw Pittsburgh in there as a less than run, but I think the two teams, plain and simple, that aren't going to are the Chargers because of all the injuries, and Carolina just because of the youth and their lack of firepower.
Ryan, I would love to close, if it's okay with you, with 3 quick hitters, like 15 to 30 seconds each, 3 more to go, like 15 to 30 seconds for the answer. You cool with that? A little lightning round here to wrap.
Let's roll.
If the Buffalo Bills lose tomorrow to the Jacksonville Jaguars, should the Bills fire Sean McDermott? 15 to 30 seconds for the answer.
That's so hard. You look at who's won the most over the last 10 years. The Bills are there. The Ravens are there. And guess what? The Ravens just fired their coach. So something has to change, and it's not going to be Josh Allen.
I agree completely with that. Eagles and the Niners tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. Philly, a 6-point favorite, total 44.5. You think the Niners can pull this upset, or Philly wins comfortably? 15 to 30 seconds.
I think this number could be in the double digits. Philly, I think, dominates. They dominated at home. The worst thing in the world that could happen to San Francisco was getting beat last week and now having to go on the road like this.
Ian Eagle, Ross Tucker on the call of that game tomorrow on Westwood One. And then final one, 15 to 30 seconds, Patriots and the Chargers. I know you said the Chargers can't win the Super Bowl. I agree. Doesn't mean they can't beat the Patriots, though. Tom McCarthy, Derek Rackley have the call tomorrow night on Westwood One. Patriots a 3.5-point favorite, 45.5 the total. How do you see that one playing out?
The experience, as you said, is the big problem here for Drake May and the Patriots. They've never been in this position. But for me, it's simply the fact that Justin Herbert has no protection and can't be protected. And if that's going to be the case, they just cannot win this football game on the road.
Ryan, you're the man. I loved when we talked on Radio Row last year at the Super Bowl. I hope we get the chance to do that again. Hope we can talk before Radio Row again in this postseason. Can't wait to listen to you, Jason Panetti, on the call of the Rams and the Panthers later today in Charlotte. Our friend Scott Graham in studio for Westwood One. Have a great call. Enjoy the games, and we'll catch up with you in the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Excited today. My first playoff game. Wow. Man, what a world.
Congratulations, my man. That is awesome for our friend Ryan Leaf. Quick break. Coming up next, best bets, side total, and props for wildcard weekends in the NFL. Here on You Better You Bet.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Some thank yous to dole out before we wrap up the Wild Card Saturday edition of You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff with best bets for today in the NFL and some breaking news in the NFL that I will get to in just a moment. Our executive producer today, the great Bill Zimmerman, Grant Leader, our excellent engineer, Max Sheedy, one of my favorites, our video producer, Zach Kroll, the man, handling our social. Thank you to them, our outstanding crew, and our one wonderful guest today, Westwood One NFL analyst Ryan Leaf, again on the call nationally for Westwood One, along with Jason Benetti of the Panthers and the Rams this afternoon. We will get to the games in a second, but we have breaking news in the NFL, and for everyone listening to us in Atlanta right now, the Atlanta Falcons have made it official. This is not a surprise that this happened if you've been following anything in the world of sports, but it is now official. The Atlanta Falcons have hired franchise legend, MVP quarterback Matt Ryan as the new president of football operations. So Matt Ryan is going to have final say on everything related to the Atlanta Falcons football team. Obviously, hiring a new general manager, hiring a new head coach, the NFL draft, and who the quarterback's going to be next year. And again, not a surprise that Matt Ryan takes the job. And I have no inside information on who he will hire. They will be interviewing Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak today. Why I think that's interesting is Kubiak is obviously from the Shanahan tree, was John Elway's backup quarterback, and obviously is familiar with the Shanahan offense, right? And Matt Ryan won his MVP award and went to the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. That is very amateur dot connecting by me. That does not mean Clint Kubiak will get the job, just that I think that's a little interesting. But regardless of whoever the Falcons and Matt Ryan hire, and again, Matt Ryan, new president of football operations for Atlanta, whoever the Falcons hire as coach and GM, I actually think is not the most pressing issue that Atlanta needs to figure out. For me, that's what to do at quarterback. We think Kirk Cousins will be back. He can't be your week one starting quarterback, not in my estimation. And you wanted Michael Penix Jr. to show you more this year, and I was a huge Penix guy coming into the year. He didn't show that to you. So maybe Penix is the quarterback next year. And I'm being sincere here. I just, if you're a Falcons fan, I don't know how you go into next year if it's Penix or Cousins and feel really that good about it. Not that they can't be good, just that you wish you had gotten a little more out of Michael Penix Jr. this season if you're the Atlanta Falcons. So again, Matt Ryan, the new president of football operations for the Atlanta Falcons. And with that, let's get to best bets for Wild Card weekend in the NFL, which means we need our friend Grant Leader to kindly drop the dope-ass beat. The big boys are about to battle, which means we want you, dear listener and dear viewer, to attach your no-sweat token to a qualifying playoffs bet so you get back bonus bets if you don't win. Make it legendary with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Rams and the Panthers coming up in Carolina. LA's a 10.5-point road favorite. 46 is the total. It looks like this number is going to come down to 10. Not definitely, but that's where we're trending at this moment right now. If I had to bet the game, I'd bet under 46, but I have the Rams as a money line parlay piece, and I've been teasing that all show. Give me the LA Rams to win with the Philadelphia Eagles to win tomorrow against the 49ers, with the Indiana Hoosiers to win the national championship next Monday night. All money lines. That pays plus 110 at BetMGM. That will be a bet in my account today. So that is Rams, Eagles, Indiana, all to win. So do I think the Rams will cover? Maybe. Do I think they will win? Yes. And tonight, Packers and the Bears in Chicago. Green Bay, a 1.5-point road favorite, 44.5 the total. If we get to tonight and the wind is not ferocious, I will lay the Green Bay Packers, the short price for the Packers to win. And I like the over in the game as well, assuming the wind is not bad. We'll finalize tomorrow's betting card tomorrow on Countdown to Kickoff. WFAN in the New York tri-state area, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday morning. And then I'm back nationally, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow here on Countdown to Kickoff. So those are the sides and totals. Let's give you some props for today with Die Royal Prop King.
Now approaching the betting window, it is your prop king, Nick Kostos. All hail King Kostos.
All hail King Kostos.
Oh, baby. Some props for Wild Card Saturday in the National Football League. And let us begin with the Panthers and the Rams in thy royal Carolina. I like a couple props. Please gamble responsibly. And for new listeners and viewers, I like my prop bets, they are not guaranteed winners. So do whatever the hell you want to do. Just make sure you bet responsibly. Jalen Coker, Tony Montana's favorite NFL wide receiver. Get it? Played almost all the snaps last week for Carolina against Tampa in the game that the Panthers lost. I think he's a really good young player. Ryan Leaf talked about him in the last segment. Coker over 35.5 receiving yards. I'll also have a small bet, and this is just my opinion here, that as I think the Rams are trying to win the Super Bowl, obviously, right? I think that they're going to integrate Blake Corum in. Blake Corum, their backup running back to Kyron Williams. Corum over 42.5 rushing yards. Mitchell Evans, anytime touchdown. And for tonight, I'm not overthinking it. I think the Packers are going to win. I love me some Christian Watson. This bet for me is elementary, my dear Watson. Christian Watson over 56.5 receiving yards. And a beer or pizza money anytime touchdown bet for the Bears. I think you'll see Ben Johnson get creative down by the goal line. Alistair's grandson, Durham Smythe, anytime touchdown. Small money bet at huge odds for the Chicago Bears. And that does it for the Wild Card Saturday edition of Countdown to Kickoff. I will catch everybody tomorrow on Sunday on Westwood One Sports, and check out all the games today on Westwood One. So until we meet again, dear listener and dear viewer, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck.
That was You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.